Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining Fett263 presents Phone with Saber Effects for Proffieboard. I see a few people in the chat already. Hey, Max. Hey, Tyler. Hey, Brian. Glad you guys made it. I have a couple things I was going to talk about this week, and then, of course, if there's any questions or anything in particular that I can try to help with, feel free to put them in the chat. If you saw the thumbnail, one of the questions that's come up recently, obviously with everything going on The Mandalorian, hopefully everybody's seen it. Try to avoid spoiling anybody, but obviously between the use of Ahsoka's white sabers and then also the dark saber blade, there's been a couple questions related to that. So I figured I'd kind of show some options for everybody and related to styles and colors. And then there's a couple new things I had put some proof of concepts on last week that I just wanted to kind of show in case anybody didn't see those or just rehash. And they're still in development, so there's still a lot to be done on them. But I wanted to take a few minutes for that, and then any questions, and then we'll try. I'll try to probably won't make it fully to 10 p.m., but I'm going to try to stretch out the hour. But life calls. So that being said, let me switch this screen up. Let me take a peek at the chat in here. Hey, Brian, thanks for joining. Kendall Hall. Yeah, Brian, the color zoom I'll show, and still have more testing on it, but it's working pretty well. But it'll end up being, I think it'll, in talking to Frederick, I think it'll end up being kind of a standard feature for the next OS. Obviously once it gets a look at everything. But let's see. All right, so yeah, split blade. Cool. Yeah, using split color blade. Yeah, that's last week we actually showed that. So the ability to do the split blades in the library. Glad that's working for you. Let's see. So let me get in here. So one of the obvious questions, I had posted a video a little ways back related to Ahsoka and the her saber. So in the library, and this goes to the video, I've set up, there's been silver blades forever. Now the silver blades themselves, they're actually related, they're not actually white. And there was a couple of reasons for this. The number one reason, and this was something that's been coming up, more and more people are doing RGBW strips, which is why I had shown the dark saber as well. When I built my dark saber, I did the RGBW strip. So what that is it actually has a separate white dye in them. So typically neopixel blades are going to be the RGB. So you got your red, green, blue, and then to get white, you'd actually have full power to all of those, and that would create white, which obviously means a lot more power being used by the neopixel blades, and with batteries being an issue. Typically, when I was designing the styles, I was keeping that in mind. So the silver blade, I did it partially to allow effects show through and partially to let you be able to run it for a longer time. But I do have people who are using RGBW blades that want to get these effects, but they want it to actually be white. So I'm going to kind of show. So I do have plans to add for the dark saber an RGBW style, but realistically, I'm probably not going to build every style with a white version. It's when I designed the library, when I built the library, what it is there's actually scripts that take everything you choose and all the screens, and it puts together a style. And I kind of made it to handle these 8 colors that you see everywhere, which is the red, blue, deep sky blue, green, gold, purple, silver, and dark orange. So trying to add a white in there actually would take me a lot of work. So I do have a plan to actually build some styles in a white version. You could use them on RGB, but they'll mostly be tailored to the RGBW. Just because if you run pure white on your saber, if you want to, great, but your battery is going to drain really quick. Again, just because you're using all of those dyes. So the RGBW has the separate white dye. You're only powering 1 dye instead of 3. So the idea is you can get pure white, and they also have like cool white or warm white. But you can get white out of your blade without having to run all of the dye. So the one that came up recently was the dark saber blade. Now the dark saber style, I'll show it to you in white, and I'll get it. I'm going to actually probably I don't know if I can put it in the comments now, but I'll try to get it in the comments, or I'll add it to the description of this video later for anybody who wants to grab it. In prepping for this episode tonight, I actually went ahead and did it, and I realized, because it's been a while since I built the style, it's actually a pretty complex style. So it wasn't the easiest shortcut to show, but I'll get at it. So I'm going to grab a different style and give that the kind of white makeover. So we're just in audio flicker, and then I'm going to grab the silver blade, and I'm not going to add any other effects to it for now. I'm going to leave it just as is, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to paste that in here. And again, actually, Brian, I see your question. I know Frederick is planning to update the OS5 stuff to the editor. It's on his list. He's actually doing a lot, and I've actually been pestering him a lot, and he's been really helpful on some of the stuff I'm working on. So I know he's got a lot on his plate. It is one of the things he's working on. So I don't have an ETA for you. It's when he gets around to it, but he already knows that, or actually reminded him not long ago, and he did say it's on his list of things. So so for that reason, right now, if you I talked about it last episode, but you can still take the OS5 styles, drop them into editor. If you get an error message, it's because you grabbed one of the features that's only OS5, but this one I didn't add anything. So we'll submit this. So, so about the editor, it should be getting an update in the near future, but it's really when Frederick has the time to do that update. Typically in the library, and because there's now so many more options, this could change, but typically what you're looking for to change is your actual base style. So for my silver blades, they're usually a mix of RGB colors. And this is where the question of the RGBW comes in. And I don't know, Frederick would do the technical explanation a little bit better, but essentially if you have an RGBW strip, you put in the blade config, and the OS converts RGB to RGBW. What it's going to do, though, is in the case of the silver blades, if you notice, the silver that I use, one of the mixes, it's a lower red and green and a higher blue. This gives a blue hue. Now it shows a little bit in editor. In person, it's a little bit of a different hue, but this is just through a lot of trial and error for what looks good to my eyes. It's not meant to be the end-all be-all for everybody, so you can always edit these styles anyway. But with an RGBW neopixel strip, if you want to have that white light up, it's got to be a white color, and white color is just even values of these. So if I change this into that is a white. It's just a dimmer white, and I spoke about this a little bit last episode and a few other times. I typically don't run the bright colors like the whites and the golds at actually full strength on all the die, to allow you to have those effects like lock up and clash and blast show through. If you want to go pure white, you can. Pure white in RGB is going to be 255 for all three values. Or you could type white in, but since we're talking RGB, I'm going to put these in. So this would be the pure white. And if that's what you want in the blade, great. But what's going to happen if you run just pure white, even with some other mixes like an audio flicker, a lot of your effects are going to be really hard to show through, unless you go with like an off color. And I know a lot of people say they do reds and greens and yellows and stuff like that. And that's great. I typically, and obviously the addition of the compound colors for the films changes it a little bit, but I still really lean back to the white effects. I just like how they pop in person, and I like being able to see a big differentiation. So in the library, the silver color is going to be a little bit dimmer. If you want to convert it to a white mix, the easiest thing to do is drop the blue value. But you can always, you can choose any color you want. There's no right or wrong. I just go with, typically what I'm looking for. Oh, chat's lighting up. Sorry, I'm paying attention on the other screen. Hey, Sean. Hey, Meg2. Thanks for joining. Hey, Alex. Yeah, thanks for joining, guys. Right now I'm just kind of talking silver blades, white blades, and then I'll show some new stuff. And then if there's any questions, let me go. Kindle. That's the other thing too, is if you have swing effects and you mix white in there, it can brighten your blade too. So, but typically what I'm doing in the library is for anybody who's joining late, is there's going to be an additional blue value in this RGB. That's really all you need to change if you want to switch over to just a white mix. So this used to be 150. I dropped this down to 100. And then the second color in here is same thing. You would drop this down. And even though it's a little bit dimming, what I've done in the silver blade in particular is it's actually running a little bit higher. So if you think about it, blue, when you run blue, just a straight blue blade, it's actually, the RGB is 00255. So that's a 255 set value. And what I'm doing here is I'm running my white at 100, 100, 100, which is a 300 value. So it's still technically brighter than just a straight blue. But because it's not the full 255 value, that gives us the ability to still have the effects show through. So you can have your lockup show up and still stand up. And this is a pure white lockup. This isn't one of the compound colors. If you mixed in the compound colors with the mixes that they have, you would actually get more differentiation. But even in here, you can still see the difference. And in person, you can notice it more. And then same thing with the blasts and the clashes. Just having that differentiation of not going pure white is usually how I build the blades. But if you want to go pure white, go for it. If you want to change your blast and your clash colors, now that the library handles those compound colors and a few other options, you can put them in. But I just wanted to show this. So this is anybody who just wants white, wants to get rid of that blue hue of silver. All you're doing is changing the third value of RGB. You'll notice, and certain styles are going to have it a little bit heavier. So like, where are you? This is it. So this is the Dark Saber style converted to pure white. And just for anybody joining late, the reason for this is mostly if somebody just wants pure white, but also if they want, if they're running the RGBW strips, which have that extra white dye, you can convert these styles pretty easily. Now this one, as I said, prepping for the show, I realized that the Dark Saber style actually has quite a few colors mixed in. I actually built this one a while ago. This is designed specifically for that Dark Saber where you have the black core. But there's a lot of mixes. But if you go into each of these RGBs, so I've already converted them. That's where you just adjust the value so that they're all equal. That'll activate the white dye. You don't have to just put white in. So what you're looking for is obviously white, but any RGB mix where it's the three, the R, the G, and the B are all equal, that will also be, that's a version of white. And obviously going from 255 down to 0, that's when you get that kind of a dimmer white. Although even at the 100, 100, 100 for RGB, the white is still pretty bright. But so that's the basically what I wanted to kind of cover there. And I did say earlier, I'm going to put this specific style in the description of this show, just for anybody who wants to grab it. I am looking to get this added to the library. I just haven't had time yet, and in order to make it get it in the library, I do have to do some additional work. Oh, you want to see the Dark Saber? Yeah, I can actually, when I go over to the demo camera, I can show you guys the Dark Saber. And it's got this style on it, so I can show you this style. Yeah, I've had that. I've been meaning to do the update to the Dark Saber style. I keep getting sidetracked. Part of it is obviously just a lot going on, and part of it is I get sidetracked easily, particularly coming up with new ideas, which is what we're going to segue into. Actually, let me. No, I got to pull the Dark Saber out. I'll show the Dark Saber in a minute or two. All right, let's get any other question. I think I caught up with chat. Cool. So let me do this real quick. Actually, we'll leave this up for a second. Get that camera switched over. Okay. Nope, that's the wrong one. That's what I want. All right, so I'm going to switch over to that camera really quickly. So bear with me a sec. And then that will let me show you a couple of the new things. We got to power this up.
Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren. Prepare a boarding point. Lord Vader.
Too many stops. That should be it. I had that up earlier and it was messing around with stuff. Sorry about the delay. All right, so this is something I did show last week that I've been working on. This is the new function called Clash Impact. Actually, let me make sure you guys can hear me on the chat. Let me see. Is the mic working? I see Brian just posted. For some reason, this camera is giving me some trouble. I hope you guys are hearing me. I don't see any chat otherwise. I'm going to advance as if you guys hear me, and if not, we'll do it again. Yeah, I don't know what's the deal with this other camera. I think maybe it's just seen its better days. Again. All right, is that better audio-wise? All right, yeah, I don't know what the deal is with this second camera. So, apologize for the audio stuff. I think it's time for a new webcam. But, all right, so you didn't hear any of what I was saying. So this is one of the new things I'm working on. It'll most likely be OS 6, just because obviously OS 5.7's out, and Frederick kind of already alluded to it. So the idea for this function is to allow the clash, in particular the clash and begin lockup effects, to actually react to how hard the Saber clashes. Obviously with Frederick's help, I was able to get this working pretty well. Now there's still more work to be done, but the idea is this is a tester style. When I hit the Saber, the how hard I hit it is going to change a blue section here. So light hits will be low, medium will be halfway, and then hard hits will be full size. So that was kind of a little bit of a harder hit, medium hit, and then harder, and then really hard gets up to the full blade. And part of what makes this function work is it basically holds the peak value. So functions like swing speed or blade angle or even the twist angle, they're always updating. So they're doing everything all the time. Part of getting this to work was having it so that it would react and it would hold, because when you do a clash or a lockup, you want that effect to stay as if that impact happens. So that's part of what the testing is doing, is getting that to work. So essentially the idea behind it is if you have a light clash, you'll get a different kind of a smaller and a less, a shorter visual versus a really hard hit. So like a really hard hit would obviously be a bigger clash and it would stay on the blade longer. And again, this is just for demo purposes. So then this is the kind of the practical application where the clashes are going to be based on how hard you hit, and how long they stay on the blade is also part of that clash impact. So kind of a light hit will fade out quicker versus a really hard hit stays on longer. And that's just kind of, one of the things that I've been working towards. So still more testing on it, but I wanted to show that. And then with this style, actually I got to reposition myself. And Brian, this one's for you, the color zoom. And let me catch up on the chat. Cool. Okay. I can only see the chat if I slide over towards the screen, unfortunately. Color zoom. This is actually, the color zoom was Frederick's idea. Frederick actually brought this up a while ago, and I was asking him about it, and he just hasn't had the time to do it. So I kind of asked him if it was okay if I took a look at it, and he obviously didn't care, and he still helped me out with it. But so what color zoom is it typically, actually, let me get in. So typically when you're in color change, the rotation of the hilt, you have a full 360 degrees, that has to cover the variations, which is the 32,768 variations. So if you go slowly, you can actually dial it in pretty well. But, it's covering all these colors in a very, in a pretty tight space.
So what the color zoom is it's going to be set up so that it's only basically when you hold the power button. So normally you would click power and it would lock the color in. And I know red is the one that everybody has the toughest time with, and it's just because there's big jumps in that little space of going from kind of too pink to going too orange. So to get that to work, what happens when you now, with this color zoom, is when you press down the power button, it actually applies a zoom factor. And I think I have a 2000 zoom on this. I'm sorry, I had the plate up too high for you guys. I'm trying to turn it and talk. But so you get this kind of jumping color just with a little bit of movement. So when you get close now with the color zoom, if you hold the power button, it actually tightens that zoom up so that it's a much larger angle to change. It still lets you fine tune it, but essentially it's basically just math. It's just multiplying the angle needed to make that change so that you have to make a bigger movement to get to the next color. And that's what lets you get that color locked in. And the zoom stays active until you release. So as soon as you release power, it locks it in. Now, if you're in color change, you just click power, it's going to just grab that color, but it just gives you that little added fine-tune control that I know a lot of people have asked about. And again, it was Frederick's idea. I can't take credit for it. I was just able to get it working. But the other piece of it that was my idea is actually, let me switch here, because sometimes I accidentally go into color change, or like my son will actually accidentally go into color change, and before you know it, all of a sudden your blade's a different color, and you're like, oh man, and then you either have to go all the way back and reload it, or you got to dial it in, and if you have a really specific color that you like, it can be kind of a pain. So I've added now a revert, which basically just goes back to what that color was when you loaded your config. So we'll go in, and if you press the aux button while in color change mode, it jumps right back to your original color. And that one was my idea. That was something I was looking for, and that's kind of what got me into the whole color zoom, going after that route. So that's the color zoom with the color revert. Those will also be OS 6. I'm going to grab this dark saber for you guys because I did promise that. In talking to Frederick, I believe the color zoom and the revert are going to be, they'll be added as standard. So he did say that because it actually was originally his idea. Let me get this out for you. And we'll turn this on. Check that chat. Oh wow, that chat blew up on me. I will catch up with everybody's chat in a minute. I'm away from the computer to do this demo stuff. Actually, I'll just show it. I'm not going to close this hilt up all the way because I know that battery's getting low on me. But so this is the Solus Hull Dark Saber, and this is actually that style I just showed in there. So it's not actually a full white on purpose. It's running that RGB 100, 100, 100 with a bunch of other mixes to get that kind of a flickering effect. And it looks pretty good on the screen. Turn it this way. So this one, if you guys aren't on the TRA, when this originally had come out, I was excited about it. I can't say it was an easy install, and there was some communication issues with how to get it all working that kind of, I have to admit, disheartened me a bit, but it's been running for a while. I just haven't had time to play with it. But now, obviously, with the popularity of The Mandalorian and everything, I'm kind of trying to get back at it. And this is Jesse's Dark Saber font, if you're going to ask. But so this is the Dark Saber. I actually don't have a lot of styles loaded on this. Oops. It's not. I didn't permanently affix the blade. I didn't tighten that the set screw. But so this is it. So it's the Solos Hold one. It does have a Proffi in it. I am running the RGBW strips in it to get that pure white without having to use all the dyes. But it's it's a cool unique saber. But I'll be posting this style on the description for those of you looking for it. So that was the Dark Saber. and that's kind of what led to the discussion on how you get pure white out of that silver. And again, the silver is mostly meant for RGB, regular RGB to get done. Get this going. But I'm going to switch over again, so one more second. And then it looks like I have a whole lot of chat to catch up on. All right. Switch. Cool. All right, let me, wow, I got to scroll back in this chat. I'm sorry, guys. Let me catch back up with everybody. Where is this? All right, there we go. I'm catching up. All right. Hey, thanks for, oh, wow, a lot of you guys joined. I'm sorry if I missed you. Hey, Kim. Hey, Lyle. Hey, Jesse, you're on. That was just your fun. Alex, hey, Nick. Hurricane. Tom's here. Link the Jedi. Wow, I got everybody filled up. So let me catch questions now. All right, new function. Thanks. Yeah. So the Clash Impact will be coming. That's I'm looking forward to getting the rest of that working. Yeah. Thanks, Alex. Again, the original idea came out of Frederick, and it actually came from requests, particularly Brian and a few others on TRA, who were having difficulty with some of the getting to some colors. I know red was the one I think that every once in a while red would be a little tricky to get at, but Frederick actually came up with the idea of making it so that you could zoom in the control. I just kind of took his idea, and actually he gave me definitely gave me a whole lot of breadcrumbs to follow to get to the point. He just hadn't had time. I was looking at trying to do the revert because I wanted the revert, so I figured I'd do those two together. So the color zoom is Frederick's idea and a lot of Frederick's code. I just kind of made it come to be. And then the revert was my idea that I wanted to mix in there. So it's to take that color wheel to the next level so you can get that fine-tuned control. And then also, like I said, if there's times where you accidentally change the color and you didn't want to, you can also just revert right back now. So those two pieces are, I think, they're the kind of just the last two pieces of the puzzle to make it really work well. So I'm excited about it. And the plan will be, and I think I said this in the demo video, will actually be the zoom level will actually be a define that you put in your config. I'll put a default in, but if you really want to have it like be less sensitive or more sensitive, the idea will be you'll actually put that zoom factor, which is just going to be a numeric value. Like I said, I think the test value is at a 2000 zoom. So what that does is it divides that 360 degrees by 32768 by 2000 to get that control to really tighten in. So you have to move the hilt more to get the color to actually switch to the next version. Let's see. Color change mode. I'm not sure what you mean by a default color. I'm thinking you're Hurricane. If you're meaning the actual color that's in the config, that's actually part of the OS when you actually upload it. So that's kind of like a hard-coded number. That one can't change. What color change does is that variation it actually applies. Now, if you never revert, it'll hold that color for all the time. If you use the save state or save color change define, it's essentially permanent until you upload again. But with the revert, if you click the revert, it is going to find whatever that original color was, it's actually just color 0 in the variation of the OS itself. So it kind of ignores everything else you've saved. So that it's a trade-off. It has to have something to go back to, so that the color revert is reverting to the color that was originally programmed to the board. There's not a way to overwrite that part, but it'll be. But if Brian actually answered you. I missed that. Yeah, if you want to save, if you do color change and it's not saving on your saber, like when you do the kill switch, or when your battery runs out, Yeah, save state, or there's also save color change. So save state will actually save your volume level, the preset that was last active, and color change. Or if you just only want color change saved, you could just do the save color change. So it's save underscore color underscore change, all caps, as a define, and that will also save that color for you. And that's what ends up letting the that color stay essentially permanent. It's not because it's going to be a temporary file on your SD card, so if that ever got replaced or if you ever do a new upload, it would overwrite. But that essentially makes color change pretty permanent. Let's see. Back to, I actually painted my, let me pull that back. I actually tried the aluminum black on the inside just to test it, and I didn't love the look. I think I can do it in this camera. What's going on? We timed out. I don't know why I'm having technical issues today. So yeah, I ended up actually just getting aluminum paint and a whole lot of, oops. Pull this. So yeah, it's actually just I did a primer specifically for aluminum, and then a gunmetal paint to mine. So it's not essentially weathered. It was a whole lot of fine taping to get it all aligned. But that's it's actually just it's a rattle can primer and then a rattle can paint for aluminum that I picked up. And I just found them online. But I just wanted a little bit. I had tested the aluminum black, and I didn't love the results. So that's why I figured if I go paint too, if I really didn't like the result, I could always just take that off. A lot easier. Hopefully I'm not losing you guys. For some reason, this computer keeps switching out on me. Let's see. Ignition time. Ignition. I saw a question and it just flashed past. For Vader, it depends on your font. I think I have 500. I've got 2 Vader fonts. I've got Jesse's Rogue, and I've got another one that I had for a while. It might have been Casis. I have to go look, but I think 500. I usually time my ignitions out to the actual WAV file and my retractions. Now, also part of OS 6, and Brian knows this already, I think that Obi-Rob Kenobi's wavelength function, where it'll actually auto-time your ignitions and retractions and a few other effects to the file playing, that'll probably be even better. I'm pretty sure he'll get that submitted for OS 6. I think it was just too much to get into OS 5. But that's another thing. But I want to say, at the top of my head, I think I run 500 ignition, 800 retraction, but I'd have to go pull up a config for this to remember. But typically, if you just time out your, like in Audacity, if you open up your out file and just see how many seconds it is, then you just apply that. And that's typically how I do my ignitions and retractions. I currently have I have 9 Proffi Sabers right now, and that's probably too many. But I do have 9 that I've installed. One of them, the Graflex, is actually pretty much my oldest son's at this point, although I grab it from him whenever I want to do demos. So 8.5. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yeah, Megtooth, you got 6, you got 2, so you got the 8 plus a couple others. Yeah, the red, so that's where that color zoom is going to come in. That it makes getting to red now pretty straightforward with that. Yeah. So that's actually one of the things that led me after the revert was the not only just being able to get back to red, but I have some sabers where I'll do just kind of my own color, and I don't actually even put it in the library. And then if I accidentally hit color change or I change color and I can't get back specifically, then you have to re-upload. So the revert is to prevent that. So it's basically lets you jump back. This is kind of I've seen a lot of posts asking about it. And for me, I mean, I know Space Window, I don't know if Space Window's on. He does his TriStar blade, which has the 3 strips. And from, obviously, I haven't seen one in person. From everything he's shown, and he does the lumens tests and all that, that would be really bright because you have that 3rd strip in there. And then, of course, Frederick actually did his 4-strip zigzag blade. So obviously, if you're packing more neopixels into the blade, that would make it brighter. But on the other side, I see some people who have businesses that hype theirs as being the brightest blade, but then when they list it, they say they have 2 strips, and it happens to be the same 2 strips that you can buy elsewhere. I don't understand how it would be brighter. Diffusion maybe a little bit, but if you have more strips, I would say, in my experience, I could see that being brighter. Now, on the flip side though, I myself have gotten some crummy neopixels that no matter how much you throw at them, they just never look bright, and I think it's just because they're cheap. So I think it's probably more likely to get, you know, if you buy like a cheaper strip somewhere that they're maybe not as good, that they'll be dimmer. But if you're just building, you know, just regular neopixel strips that everybody else is buying, and you're putting them together and you're diffusing them right, I haven't seen huge differences in brightness myself. Now I typically been sticking with one vendor since having a few problems, but for the most part, all the blades that I've put together with a couple of different strips, they've all been essentially the same in terms of brightness. But again, the caveat being, if you put more pixels in, it will be brighter because there's more light source. And that's just, you know, kind of how I see it. Let's see. Yeah, and then this go gravestones. I'm not familiar with Golden Harvest other than obviously I know of its existence. I've never used it. I would assume so, though. But I would say you can. Some of the people in here might be able to answer that for you. I know a few people probably use the Golden Harvest. I haven't, and I'm not overly familiar with it. But I would assume if it's neopixel, running a neopixel, you should be able to do white. How you do that, though, I'm not entirely sure. Oh, yeah, Nick. Yeah, I think a few people answered you. Yes, if you can have color change on your blade it's only while that font is active. And then if you cut power or if you change and go back, it will revert. That's if you haven't saved it. Now, the save state that everybody's talking about lets you actually save the colors. So, you know, sometimes people just change color for fun, just to kind of show off. I mean, if you have a neopixel blade and you have somebody stand next to you who doesn't, being able to switch the colors when they're stuck with a single color is always fun. But you can save the color change with save state or save color change. If you don't have either of those defined, your color change is essentially temporary, and when you cut power or change the fonts, it's going to revert back to what was on the board. So there's a lot in there. What the revert function will help mostly is if you're using the save color change or the save state to get back to what you originally programmed. Yeah, let's see. Whoa, you guys are chatting away. I'm going to try to catch up with everybody. Sorry I'm behind. Let's see. Hey, Lyle. Congrats then. Yeah, I'm late to this hobby, and I've told the story a few times, but my first was really Proffieboard, and that's thanks to Megtooth. So I came into the hobby at the right time, I guess, because Proffi was just coming out when I was bugging the hell out of Tom to get a neopixel saber built. The stars aligned, and I was able to jump in when Proffi, the very first run, I was in on that, and I got a few of them, and I kind of learned from there. So I haven't had to upgrade any of my sabers because they all only started with Proffi. But yeah, I mean, I love sharing and showing stuff about Proffi just because I get so much enjoyment out of it. So when people, get a hold of their first one and get to really try this stuff out, it's great. And then, as Megtooth says, Teensy Saber runs Proffi OS. You can have the older Teensy Saber and still get the latest features. I have an Echo. Hopefully that hasn't been going on. We kept the mic on.
Demo. That's probably right. Brian's probably right. I probably have the second mic on. Although that was meant to be backup in case that sound cuts out on me. This other camera, I think, is seeing its last legs. Let's see. Rogue One. Yeah. So I see everybody talking about the Vader ignition. I'm way behind on you guys on that. Yeah, I mean, I forget what I run, but yeah, especially the Rogue One hallway scene, that's a really slow ignition. So you can't go wrong with a slow, drawn-out ignition. It's, again, I try to time it to the actual sound, but you can obviously make it as long or as short as you like. Let's see. I think I'm catching up with everybody. Yeah. Oh yeah, Mountain Sabers. I saw you had the candy canes and the Christmas tree saber. Yeah, tis the season, right? So let's see. Hey, I caught the end of the chat. So I kind of got off on a lot of tangents there, but if there was any questions or any specific, queries, I'd love to answer them. But I do have, obviously, the color zoom, the color revert, or the proof of concepts there. I've got to clean the code up. I got to do more testing as soon as I have time. That'll be coming. But again, most of the stuff, the new stuff that I have shown, and I actually have more that's not ready yet, is meant for OS 6, which I think is still going to be a little ways out. So I know it's I've had people already hit me up. They want to get a hold of the new stuff, especially the Clash Impact. The Clash Impact that was early proof of concept. There's still actually a lot of work to do on that one. I actually saw questions about applying that Clash Impact to sound. I've been talking to Frederick about it. I have not gotten it to work yet, but essentially the plan will be to get I'm trying to get it so that the volume of your clash is tied to how hard that clash happens. Now, on the sound side, I'm still a little bit lost, so I'm probably going to lean into Frederick on that one. The visuals, I wouldn't say that I'm overly knowledgeable, but I know enough to get stuff done on it. But the long term, it might even be a second iteration plan, will be also for that Clash Impact function to apply to sound. And Frederick actually had the same idea when I went to him with it. I just think it's a matter of getting it to work properly. So there's still a lot related to that. The color zoom and the color revert would also be an OS 6 thing when and if that comes. Well, not if, it's going to come, but when. So that's still a little ways out. But I obviously, and there's more. I think I showed a couple episodes back, I had a list of stuff that I wanted to chase down. I've got a couple of those things checked off, a couple of those things in progress, and a couple of those things are just not realistic, so they probably won't come to be. But more stuff is coming. Plus, Frederick's probably working on a ton. He's always got something that you didn't even think of up his sleeve, and then all of a sudden he drops it. So there'll be a lot of new stuff. Well, let me see. I don't know. My chat must have been delayed. I missed all these. So GitHub 101. I am actually not great with GitHub. If you, I don't know if anybody bothers to, but when I do pull requests, I've said it. I'm not a programmer. I picked up some books. I ask way too many questions of Frederick. I'm sure I get on his nerves, but he's ultimately patient. And even with the GitHub side, I've learned a little bit. It's mostly trial and error. I am definitely not a seasoned vet. I've actually probably messed up more stuff with my GitHub version in trying to get those pull requests done than I care to admit. So I don't think I would be the right person to do a discussion on GitHub because I would butcher the heck out of it. A few times, even just for getting battle mode in order to sync up, because when OS 5 was being worked on, Frederick was adding a ton of stuff himself. And for the pull request to work, you have to have your version, which is local, synced with his, and he would push a change up, and I was halfway done with mine, and then I would go to sync them, or I would go to compare them so that you could pull it in, and all this is I'm probably explaining it wrong, but it wouldn't work. So then I would have to I would literally delete everything on my GitHub, pull a new copy of his down, and have to redo it. And I know there's probably a better way to do it. So Brian, I'm the last maybe second to last. There's probably some people who know less, but I'm not where a lot of people who use GitHub are. So I don't think that would be a good one for me. McTooth. So yeah, so I've seen some questions on the gesture stuff. The gestures are all defines. And do I have one open? Let me see if I can get one quickly here. Yeah, I think so. In your config, it's going to be different for everything. It's going to be different based on your prop file. The prefix Fett263 is related to my prop file. So in order to get the gestures active, and this isn't necessarily a demo video, but it's more just to kind of explain really all you need to do. There's two pieces to the gesture controls. There's the prop file that runs them. So you would include this piece of code, and it can be, this is the Fett263 and the SA22C are in OS 5.7. Dimitri, the stock version, he has that for download with gestures. Excuse me, my throat's getting dry. On the Proffieboard support group, and if you're not a member of that, you should definitely join it if you have a Proffieboard or if you're interested in Proffieboard. But at any rate, you need a prop file that has the gestures, and then mine has a ton of customization. So I have a lot more defines than SA22C does, but there's just defines to get them active. So and the prefix of Fett263 or stock or SA22C, that's just something Frederick likes to have so that when he gets troubleshooting, he knows which prop file right off the bat is supposed to be being used. So because like some of these I kind of came up with, like the thrust and the swing and force push, and obviously multi-phase and battle mode I came up with, but a couple other things like the stab on and the twist, Dimitri or somebody else did those. So the prefix here, it doesn't mean that I created this. It doesn't mean that so-and-so created it. It's the prefix is more related to the prop file, but you just have to add these defines. So in order to get the gestures, you obviously need 5.7. You need the prop files that have them, and there are 3 options. 2 of them come with the OS. Dimitri's is you just download it, add it to the prop folder for your OS, and then you have to add these defines to activate them. And you can do my prop file if you open this actual file, this Saber Fett263 buttons.h. The whole top half is a list of everything that's possible, and that's on purpose. It looks like a lot, but if you read the comments, I explain each one, and you can just pick and choose. But it's really 2 pieces. It's the prop file and the define, and that activates the gestures. But hopefully I didn't make you guys more confused with that. Let me see. Looks like I lost track on chat. Oh, MedTooth covered that last night. I missed you last night, Tom. Sorry about that. Let me see. I am not keeping up with chat, and I apologize. Single button. Single button would be either the Dimitri's or SA22Cs. SA22Cs came with your OS. You just have to have one button set in your config, and then, like I said, set up his prop file. The controls are different, and that's the other piece of the puzzle. Each prop file kind of has its own flavor of controls. Mine, for the most part, your basic functions are pretty close to the default on purpose, although that's changing over time and there's a couple things for OS 6 that aren't ready yet. That's going to change it again, but that's that. And then SA22C did a lot of work on his to get battle mode in there and handle one button. So you can definitely check that out. And then I know I helped Dimitri get his up for battle mode also, but I haven't used the one buttons myself yet. So I don't know the differences. Essentially, I really haven't tested them. Let's see. There we go. That's a man after my own heart. Actually going to the resource materials. So 560 milliseconds. So yeah, you can, I mean, you can obviously time it out specifically, but that actually sounds like something that's right up my alley. I typically, when you're really going, if you're really going for accuracy, I always go back to the films. It's been a great resource. I started going after Star Wars props so long ago. I would be in Barnes and Noble buying books whenever they'd have the behind the scenes or the prop books. There was the one, it was like my biggest purchase ever of a book. There was the Star Wars Chronicles book. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. Back in the day, it was kind of like the holy grail for taking a look at the props, physical props, not props from Proffios. But I always like to go back to the main material. Hey Adam, I'm glad. I'm glad I'm able to help a little bit, and when I can get on, it's actually kind of fun to just kind of chat about the stuff, especially in today's current situation where we're all kind of stuck on our islands, and we don't get to get out and socialize a lot. So it's actually kind of fun to do it, and I'm glad it helps people. You can make a white and silver flame blade pretty easily. You just I wouldn't necessarily go after the response the flame control one. Just go to the regular responsive flame and just swap out colors. I thought I had a silver flame blade. Where did I hide you? Let me take a quick peek at that. I feel like I built one. I don't know which version I built it for though. There's fire. Standard fire might have been in here. Yeah, you did have one. Let's take a peek at what that looks like. So that's the silver flame. Oh, there's a little bit of a lag on that video screen. It looks a little better live. I think there's a lag on my video stream. It's kind of jumping on you guys. But that's in the library. You can actually check it out. Or, of course, you can mix your own colors. Let me see. Hey, Chet, thanks for joining. I am really sadly behind. Color change direct, that's a good question. Color change direct, essentially every time you click your color change button, instead of going into a mode where the hilt turn will change the color, it's an automatic change. And typically color change direct only works with a defined color change style versus the color wheel. And this kind of goes off a little bit, but way back, I kind of have to go back to the beginning. Actually, let me use the screen. So color change is a style. With color change, it's a list of colors, and you can make this list as long as you want, and you can build out specific colors to change to. And in doing so, that's going to look weird. We'll just leave it at pink. In doing so, you can have it work two ways. If you have color change in a style and you go into color change mode normally, so on my prop file and on default, you hold Alt, press power, it's going to go into color change mode. If you don't define color change direct, every time you turn that hilt about 15 degrees, it's going to go to the next color. And so it's essentially based on turning the hilt, goes through your colors. Now, what will happen with color change direct is when you initially press the aux and the power button or whatever your combo is for color change, it automatically changes the color. You don't have to turn the hilt. So color change direct is kind of the solution. So Frederick's version of color change is the color wheel. The color change style is what I had developed for the color change fork. When it came time for Frederick to put his color change for 3.9, I had asked him if it's possible for us to keep the color change style, because I used it for very specific purposes, like the pull to the darkness style, or my original dual phase blades. They use the color change style. So if you use color change direct, what it is when you press your color change buttons, it changes to the next color right away. It doesn't require you to turn that hilt. If you don't use color change direct as defined, you have to go into color change mode, turn your hilt, and then exit color change mode. So it got a little clunky with that mechanism. Color change direct just makes it a button press. That's essentially what it does. But it only works, on the color change style. If you do not have a color change style in your preset, it automatically defaults to the color wheel, which color change direct doesn't do anything for. Let me see. Yeah, hey Tom, you had any chance with that? That's still on my list too. I have not had time, but it's and somebody else. I heard somebody else was going after this too. It's in the works. I haven't had a chance to get to it. Let me see. Yeah. Cool. I think I've caught up with chat, and actually, I'm gonna have to cut out in a minute or two. I really appreciate everybody joining in. I actually appreciate how much the chat has gone on. I apologize for not keeping up with it. When I switched over to the demos, I'm too far away from the screen, and I think I fell behind everybody. So I feel like I've been behind the conversation with you guys all the time. But if there's any questions that I didn't cover, drop them in the chat, or of course, put them in after the show's done, or you can always post them up in the open source or the Proffieboard group. There's actually a lot of people, Brian, Megtooth, Max, there's a lot of people who are familiar with a lot of stuff that can always answer. As we get more new people into Proffieboard and into the hobby in particular, the people who've been there a little bit longer, they become kind of the torchbearers for helping everybody move in. So that's the same thing that I got started. I had no clue, between Frederick, obviously, was a big help, and then Tom helping me, getting to the getting into Proffieboard kind of got me to where I am, and then I was able to help some people out, and now there's new people who were helped out by others that are now helping everybody. So it's kind of like everybody kind of pays it forward. Let me see. So dimming with a turn was something that was being looked at. I kind of went a different path. I'm going to mess this up. I feel like it was Rob Kenobi was looking at it. When I came up with the power save mode for 5.7, which is actually, it's an effect power save that I designed. It kind of took the need for it out, but it could circle back. There was going to have to be some changes to how the blade config was set up to make that work. But you never know in the future. But I think somebody had been chasing it. And then if I recall, I went a different route with it, and I actually didn't know they were going after it. And then I want to say it's Rob Kenobi. If it's not, I'm sorry for whoever was originally chasing it. His name's sticking with me. I think they kind of paused it when I ended up doing my version of it. But you never know. Let me see. Yeah, essentially, again, the thing with what SA22C did, and even what Dimitri did, is we kind of all share the code from the prop file. So like I'm using SA22C's volume controls, and then SA22C, he added my gesture controls for battle mode and a few other things. But that's part of open source, is kind of everybody shares. And then they've all kind of, so you take the original code for the gestures, but then you adapt it differently so that you can get a different prop file out of it. Okay, Rob was looking at menus with brightness. Okay, yeah, I knew there was something, and then I think he had written when I put out the power save stuff that it kind of took away the need, but it might still be something that comes back up. But yeah, everybody, paying it forward, and yeah, big time nerd up. And yeah, and I'm probably going to have to cut us off here. It is actually a little slightly later than I wanted to go, but I should be good next week. I'm planning to be on next week. I have a few things hopefully to show by then if I get them working. But I definitely appreciate everybody for joining in. I appreciate the questions. I'm glad that I'm able to help people with getting the most out of Proffieboard. So thanks everybody for joining me tonight. Hopefully I will catch you next week. Talk to y'all soon. Have a good one.